Hello, nerdy jurors. My name is Maria Park, and this is Approach the Nerd, the show that takes your favorite nerd content and puts it on trial. And today's defendant is none other than Jessica Jones' adopted sister, Trish Walker, aka Hellcat. And the accusation? Is Trish Walker the real villain of Jessica Jones? Take a seat, because court is in session right now. Trish Walker is a very complicated character. In season 1 of Jessica Jones, we learned that she was a drug addict, a former child star, has suffered both physical and mental abuse by her mother, and is very jealous of her sister's abilities. She was also a very successful talk show host and would use her platform to try to make a difference. But somewhere between season 1 and 2, her priorities became a little warped. In fact, you could say that her jealousy of Jessica and her own insecurities had started to lead Trish down a very dark path. So here are the top 10 reasons why Trish Walker is potentially the real villain of Jessica Jones. Number 10. Griffin Sinclair. Trish dated Griffin because he was a very high-profile news reporter with a lot of money, something her mother approved of. As long as he was on top, he was dateable, as the major reason Trish dated him was his ability to get information. Their relationship sadly ended after Griffin proposed to Trish, and her reaction was anything but loving. Not to mention the constant lies on what she was doing, and the time she accidentally attacked him and pulled a gun on him probably didn't help either. But in retrospect, he's probably counting his blessings considering. Number 9. Inez Green. In season 2, we are introduced to Inez Green, who was a former nurse of IGH, where Jessica and her mother received their powers. Trish was so desperate to be known as a serious talk show host to her fans that she became obsessed with exposing IGH. This led her to try to drag Inez Green, who had been staying with attorney Jerry Hogarth for her own protection, to force her to let Trish interview her. Now, to be fair, Inez Green is a very shady character, and her demise came at the hands of Jerry herself, in a way. But to many fans, this scene showed us how far Trish was willing to go to get exactly what she wanted. Number 8. Karl Malus. Mad scientist Karl Malus is not only responsible for saving the lives of both Jessica Jones and her mother Elisa, but he's also responsible for giving them both powers through experimentation. When Trish finds out this information, she takes it upon herself to track him down, even though Jessica explicitly asked her to stay out of it. We later learned that her true motivation is her desire to have powers of her own, because she wishes to be the superhero that her sister refuses to be. Fueled by her desperation to have her own abilities, she locates Karl and then holds him at gunpoint, forcing him to try to give her powers. Because of Trish's actions in season 2, and believe me, we will be mentioning more, it's not a far stretch to think that Jessica Jones may finally be getting a view of who her sister really is. Number 7. Malcolm DeCaussey. Malcolm was a former social worker that Jessica Jones saved one night when thieves decided to take their beating further and attempted to murder him. Unfortunately, this put him in the sights of Kilgrave. When Jessica was able to free herself, Kilgrave went after Malcolm, brainwashing him into being loyal to Jessica and providing Kilgrave with pictures, as well as getting him heavily addicted to drugs that only Kilgrave could supply. Despite all that, by the end of season 1, and with Jessica's help, we see Malcolm is in recovery and taking the first steps to beating his addiction once and for all. In season 2, we learn that Malcolm has a huge crush on Trish. Trish in turn will use this crush to her advantage to make Malcolm help her, even going so far as to sleeping with him. When Karl finally realizes what Trish is up to, she knocks him out and puts him in the trunk of her car so she can continue her search to find Karl. And if that wasn't bad enough, Trish also got Malcolm rehooked on drugs, which as a recovering addict herself, she understands how hard it is to actually beat addiction. So for many fans, this is Trish's real sin against the character. Number 6. Trish's jealousy of Jessica. From the very beginning of the series, it has been very apparent that Trish envies Jessica's abilities. Having been raised by an abusive mother, it makes sense that Trish would develop an unhealthy obsession with being the center of attention. So when she tries to convince Jessica to use her powers and become a superhero, which of course is something Jessica has no desire to do, it kind of makes us question if Trish was disappointed at Jessica's apathy or her own inability to control her sister. After all, many villains have powerful minions under their control, and Trish would have a superhero. Number 5. Trish kills Jessica's mother. One of the biggest mysteries of Season 2 is who is the unstoppable killer. We would later find out that the killer was none other than Jessica's mother, Elisa, who everyone had thought perished along with her husband and her son in the car crash that almost killed Jessica. We would also learn that Dr. Malus not only knew of Elisa's existence, but she was also a victim of his experimentation, which had given her the same abilities as her daughter, but left her very mentally unstable. And with her inferiority complex on full blast, Trish had taken it upon herself earlier in the season to not only track down the killer, but to become the superhero that Jessica refused to be. And even after the revelation that the killer was none other than her sister's mother, it did not deter her from trying to take her out, eventually succeeding in killing Jessica's mother right in front of her during a very touching mother and daughter moment. Number 4. Trish thinks murdering Jessica's mother was the right thing to do. Another bubble to mention about Season 2 and the unstoppable killer is Trish's inability to understand why Jessica had so many issues stopping her. Accusing her sister of being too soft on a regular basis, even after she received the knowledge that the killer was none other than Jessica's mother, Trish believed that Jessica did not have what it took to get the job done, so she took it upon herself to do it for her. Hypocritically, we've seen Trish's mother and the impact that she has had on her life, and Trish's own inability to stand up to her. But yet she had an unrealistic expectation over her sister and how she would deal with her own mother, who she previously thought had died in a car crash years before. At the end of Season 2, we see that Trish has shown up at Jessica's door in an attempt to get her to talk to her. When Jessica is not as forgiving as Trish wanted her to be, she then goes on to say that she still feels that killing Jessica's mother was the right thing to do. Ironically, as Trish is leaving, her powers start to kick in, and any emotional turmoil that Trish may have been feeling over the conversation with Jessica and them severing ties has taken a back seat to the fact that she's finally gotten what she wanted, her powers. After all, that was her goal the entire time. Number 3. Trish kills Gregory Salinger. For those of you who are very well versed in the Marvel Universe comic world, then you know that Salinger is actually Full Kill, who is a mercenary who basically got off killing those he deemed materialistic and unworthy of life. So it's no surprise that in the last season of Jessica Jones, Salinger kills one of the most petty characters in the entire series, Trish's own mother, Dorothy Walker. After a failed attempt at killing Salinger through intervention of Jessica, Trish broke into the jail where Salinger was being held, knocked out his guards, and killed him in cold blood in an elevator. This final act by Trish was the breaking point Jessica needed to see what her sister actually was. Number 2. Trish tries to kill Jessica. When Jessica tries to convince Trish that the right thing to do is to turn herself in, Trish makes a run for it, later appearing at Jerry's house and taking Jerry's lover hostage. To save her lover, Jerry offers herself as hostage and guarantees that she can get Trish out of the country, shooting Jessica in the leg when she tries to intervene. Long story short, Jessica is able to track her sister down to the warehouse she's in, as well as the coffin she's hiding in, awaiting transport to Thailand. The two then engage in an epic fight, first inside of a container, which is dark and to Trish's advantage, and then outside of the container after Jessica has thrown Trish through the wall. Jessica then tells her she finally sees Trish for who she really is, her mother. This infuriates Trish so much that she attempts to kill her sister with her knife, shattering any illusion Jessica had of trying to save her sister. This brings us to number 1. Trish is the real villain. During her interrogation before she's transferred to prison, Trish has an almost catatonic look on her face, as every charge is laid out before her. And when all of the charges are done, including the attempted murder of her own sister, she's asked if she understands the charges, to which she hesitates, and then finally comes to the conclusion, verbally, that she was actually the bad guy all along. And there you have it, the top 10 reasons why Trish Walker is potentially the real villain of Jessica Jones. What do you think? Leave us a comment below and let us know. And if you'd like to be signed up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to know who's on our next ballot, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait to see you in Nerd Court.